This is Faith Encouraged with Father Barnabas Powell. Homilies designed to help you live a purposeful and faith-filled life in Jesus Christ. Here's Father Barnabas.
Good morning. I'm glad you're here. I get to do one of my most favorite things in the whole wide world this morning. I get to make catechumens. I love making catechumens. It's one of my most favorite things in the whole wide world. And it's a very special day because I get to see two brothers begin their journey into entering the Orthodox Christian faith. And it's going to be a wonderful thing. That'll happen right after the homily today. Well, did everybody survive Black Friday? Everybody looks like everybody's here. No cuts or bruises, no broken bones, no lacerations or anything like that. That's good. I confess to you, I was only tempted by one thing for Black Friday. I didn't go shopping for Black Friday, thank God. But I was tempted by one item. You know what that item was? I'm going to tell you. A personal drone. I thought very seriously about they were advertising a personal drone. Did you know that that's one of the fastest growing segments of the drone world is personal drones? People buying their own drones and doing this kind of stuff. Personal drones are the thing. That they're buying drones, and they're wonderful things. You can take pictures of your neighbor's backyard. You can send it ahead of you while you're in traffic to see how bad the accident is in front of you. You can do all kinds of things with a personal drone, but one of the things that I fell in love with is something that I have loved most of my life. I've always loved the aerial shots of things, because you can get a perspective about what something really is if you can get high enough above it to kind of see the whole layout of the things. One of the things that I love about our property here is we have a beautiful aerial shot of our property that I can look at and I can say, boy, that's where the church is going to go, and over here is where the new administrative building, and then of course this is where the college is, and that's where the high school is going to be, and the preschool is going to be over here with the swing set and the swimming pool, and that's going to be nice. So I have all those things. But I love doing that because the perspective from up above lets you see things you wouldn't normally be able to see. But you know, gang, that's the way perspective works. It's when I have a good perspective on my life that I can kind of see far enough in advance to say, okay, this is the place I need to avoid, or that looks like that's going to be a pitfall, I better watch out for that. It's when I lack perspective on my life. It's when I lack perspective on my surroundings that I stumble and fall. It's the reason why I'm fascinated by the gospel lesson this morning. Because the gospel lesson has two different men saying, come and see. It's fascinating how both of these men react to questions that they are asked with the phrase, well, come and see. Because there's nothing like actually going and experiencing something to be able to tell what it's all about. I can describe to you how wonderful Cirque du Soleil is over and over again. And I can tell you all the beautiful colors and the music and the acrobats spinning up and down. And all of that is going to be a second-hand experience until you actually go and see it for yourself. And that will give you a better perspective. It's only when you dare to risk actually engaging in life that you're ever going to experience life as it was meant to be experienced. In fact, I will go so far as to say this. One of the great dangers that I see in our information age that has us having at our fingertips literally millions of volumes of information that our ancestors could never even imagine having this much information at their fingertips. In fact, in the first part of the 20th century, in the early 1900s, if a man read the New York Times, he will have consumed as much information as his grandfather would have known his entire life in one sitting at the New York Times. Nowadays, they say that our human information, the information available to we humans, is literally doubling every 72 hours. That is the breakneck speed that information is being poured out on top of us, especially in first world nations that have access to this wonderful thing called the internet. I can sit down. In fact, I had a fellow who is planting a church, and he fancies himself a theologian. And I asked him, I said, well, did you go to seminary? Oh, no. I just look it up on the internet. You can't imagine how much information I can find out on the internet about God. And I said, and you're the pastor of a church? Oh, yes. You didn't go to seminary. No. I said, well, what denomination are you part of? Oh, no. I'm not part of a denomination. We're an independent church. Well, I confess to you folks, every red flag in my head has gone off, and every red alarm went off as well, banging bells like all get out. Sweet guy, by the way, very, very good intentions, and yet with just being exposed to information without the perspective of actually participating in doing the hard work of developing your own spiritual life, what do you think the chances are of him missing something important? About 900%. And so getting perspective on your life is absolutely one of the most powerful things you can do. But it's not enough to simply read about life. You've got to actually participate in it. It's not enough to read about God. You've got to actually develop your relationship with God. Well, how do you do that? Well, Jesus met two fellows today in today's gospel lesson. They were followers of John the Baptist. One of them happened to be a fellow by the name of Andrew. And they started following. John the Baptist saw Jesus walking and said, "Behold, the Lamb of God." Andrew and his friend says, "Well, let's go follow him." So they were following the Lord behind him, and Jesus turns and says, "Gentlemen, what are you looking for?" "Rabbi," or teacher, "we just want to know where you're staying. Come and see." Notice Jesus didn't say, "Well, I'm at 3rd Appian Way. If you go down here to the red light, to turn down 3rd Appian Way, go down halfway down there. I'm on the 4th adobe hut to the right." Jesus didn't give them this information. What does Jesus do? Jesus confronts them with reality that their perspective is only going to be correct, it's only going to be right if they go and follow him. They're not going to get what they need to get by simply being told information about where he's staying. They have to come and participate in the discovery of where he is. And they follow Jesus. And one of those men is Andrew. Today is the day we remember St. Andrew and the feast of St. Andrew. In fact, in Constantinople today, the ecumenical patriarch Bartholomew I is celebrating divine liturgy with a very special guest. The Pope of Rome is there in the audience participating in the divine liturgy there at St. George Cathedral in Constantinople, there where the patriarch is presiding. He is one of the congregation members today. In fact, one of the most powerful scenes I think I saw from this last meeting between the Pope and the ecumenical patriarch, the Pope yesterday asked the ecumenical patriarch for his blessing, and he bowed in front of the ecumenical patriarch, and the picture is the ecumenical patriarch with his hands on both sides of the Pope's head, kissing him on the top of the head. What a powerful picture that is. But you know what, gang? It's just information about until you experience it yourself. The perspective of actually participating and actually following Jesus Christ is the only thing. This is the reason why I'm convinced, brothers and sisters, that God has always set up the spiritual life to never be able to be put on automatic pilot. You're never going to be able to kind of push the snooze button with your spiritual development. You're never going to be able to push automatic pilot or put your spiritual growth and your spiritual development on cruise control. It doesn't work. Because there is something about actually participating in actively doing the faith that changes your perspective and increases your ability to know Jesus Christ better. There's a second time that someone is told, "Come and see." Philip is from Bethesda, the hometown of Andrew, and Philip is told by the Lord, "Philip, follow me." And what does Philip do? He gets up and he follows Jesus. And then, hearing the Lord's teachings and watching the Lord's actions, Philip is convinced, this guy's the guy we've been waiting for 6,000 years. The whole Jewish nation has been waiting for the Messiah and being prepared to receive the Messiah for 6,000 years. Prophets and priests and kings and events have happened in the history of the Jewish people, all to bring them to this moment where the Messiah would come, and Philip is standing right there with him. And what does Philip do? He does what any good young man will do. He goes, finds his friend, and says, Nathanael, we found him. Jesus of Nazareth. Nathanael, being a good, pious Jew, says, wait a second. The Bible doesn't say that the Messiah is coming from Nazareth. Can any good thing come from Nazareth? And what does Philip say? Come and see. Brothers and sisters, your spiritual development, your spiritual life, is a tactile, experiential reality. You can fill your head with information about God from now till Jesus comes. You can become a student of the Holy Scriptures. All of these things are good things. They're not bad things. You can memorize the Holy Scriptures. I recommend that to you highly. St. John Chrysostom said that one cannot be a full-grown Christian and be ignorant of the Holy Scriptures. So knowing the Holy Scriptures is absolutely necessary. And that's a good thing. You can read religious books, and I recommend to you reading religious books as often as you can. But do you know the number one piece of advice that the saints of God throughout the centuries have told us about what books to read? Do you know what books they recommend above everything? It isn't theological books. It isn't the book on the hypostatic union. It isn't the book on, well, the mystery of the Holy Trinity and the perichoresis that exists between the Father, Son, and Holy Spirit. You don't even know what that means, do you? I do. I read the book. And yet the number one piece of advice that every saint has ever given anyone seriously interested in growing in their spiritual faith, the number one type of book to read, do you know what it is? The lives of the saints. Read the biographies of the saints of God. Read the lives of how the saints lived. Do you know why that's the most important thing? Because, brothers and sisters, your Christian life is an activity to be participated in, not something to be observed as a disinterested bystander. That's the reason why our Orthodox faith is designed the way it's designed. That's the reason why our Orthodox worship is not worship is not a sport that we observe. Worship is something we all do together. I was thrilled to death to hear many of you singing some of the hymns along with the chanters this morning. That's exactly the right way to do Orthodoxy. Orthodoxy is something you do, not some name you wear. Orthodoxy is something you participate in, not something you observe. Because the way we develop our Christian life, the way we learn, and here's the point of the homily this morning, the way we learn how to be good stewards of every gift God has given us isn't through Father Barnabas beating you over the head saying you ought to be a good steward, you ought to be a good steward. That's not going to help at all. The way you learn how to gather all the gifts and the abilities that God has blessed your life with over and over and over again. Can you really sit here in America after watching the insanity of Black Friday and understand that some people's biggest problem, their biggest problem in their life, right now, their biggest problem, their biggest disappointment was that they didn't get that Barbie doll that was on sale. That was their number one problem. There are people all over the world who would trade places with you in a heartbeat. The magnitude of the blessings that have been lavished upon you, your skills, your ability, your health, your insights, your finances, everything that you've been blessed with, how are you going to learn how to use all those gifts well that make you the man or woman God has called you to be? It's only going to be by abandoning the fear-based notion that I can know about God simply from the sidelines. It's time to come off the sidelines and get in the game. It is time for us to experience and participate in an active, purposeful way the growth of our spiritual life. It's time for each of us to hear in our lives, come and see. Not come and know, not come and observe. Come and see. What is the old saying? Because seeing is believing. That's why our Orthodox faith is so visual. That's why our Orthodox faith uses all five senses to garner your attention, to wake you up, to become a purposeful disciple of Jesus Christ. Brothers and sisters, it's time to stop being a casual observer of Christianity and start being an active participant in the Christian faith that makes you able to enjoy God forever. Next Sunday is Stewardship Sunday. This is a powerful, powerful moment in the history of the life of our community that invites each of us to come off the sidelines and get some skin in the game. It's time for each of us to stop being casual observers and to start being active participants in the life that Jesus Christ has lavished on us through this beautiful Orthodox Christian faith. It's time.
Father Barnabas is the priest at the Saints Raphael, Nicholas, and Irene Greek Orthodox Church in Cumming, Georgia. Find out more at faithencouraged.org. That's faithencouraged.org.